Solo, can you hear me?
I can hear you well. What about you, my friend?
Yes, I can hear you.
When was the last community call we did together?
Oh,
I think it's when we announced the toolkit.
I think so. I think it was with the 3.0 blog announcement.
Yep.
Been a while. Yeah, I think we can give it a minute for others to join, and we can start. Yeah, it's probably it's not the most optimal time for a community. I think a lot of people are offline. I think we're good to start either way. Just a few key things we want to cover in this community call. Basically, what's happened lately, what's going to happen soon. Most of the things we're going to hear from Solo. He's going to cover a lot of stuff from the BD side. Kind of cover some stuff from the community side. And we'll keep it short. We'll keep it simple, right, Solo? I think we can. We can start with the injective. With the injective pre-registration. Solo, what do you think? How successful was it? What kind of comments would you have for the injective?
Yeah, so I mean, my comments around that, I like what Injective did because that's the first partnership we have where it's the actual ecosystem themselves who are owning that brand, right? So the .arb, .bnb, .say, it was all like our own TLDs. And then obviously we struck deals with those ecosystems, right, to help with the promotion of these domains. And we're working on like new deals where it's going to be like third-party teams building domain names on top of our toolkit. But in the case of Injective, it's really their team itself that are actually owning it. And you don't see that quite often with the other partners we're talking to, because sometimes the ecosystems, they prefer having somebody else running the name service in a like permissionless manner. Even though I think name services should be owned by the ecosystem themselves, but I mean it's totally like up to them. But what helps is like they can push and drive all the initiatives like themselves. So it's really Injective who organize like all the Galaxy campaigns. We obviously like help advise them like on every step of the way. It's still us who's developing the product for this. They're building on top of Space ID, right? But they're doing all the BD, they're doing all the marketing, which we help amplify, and then they are doing all the loyalty campaigns. And because it's owned by them, then it's easier for them to push for integrations like on Injective. When it's the team itself that asks you to integrate the domain name, obviously you're much more inclined to go and do that integration, and also you're much more inclined to push for features that gives it utility. So yeah, I'm very happy with that launch, and I'm hoping we can get others where it's the ecosystem who owns it.
Yeah, and of course, public registration is now live. We've seen the tweet from Injective as well. If anybody hasn't checked it out, you can at inj.space.id. I think it's an interesting topic. Of course, one of the main focuses we have is providing this toolkit, allowing these communities to launch their TLDs. I think before we kind of delve deeper into that topic and what we've been doing lately, let's get a few things out of the way. So for everybody who has seen, we did complete the quarterly ID buyback and burn, and of course the DAO Treasury funding. So as you have seen in our recent DAO announcements, we had somewhere around 110,000 US dollars in stablecoins in terms of revenue. Half of that was used for the token ID buyback and burn, and the rest went to the treasury itself. Number of ID tokens, that was close to, I think, 280,000 ID tokens. And of course, we share all the relevant transactions. So to anybody who doesn't know, this is based on the proposal we have passed regarding the quarterly ID buyback and burn, and of course the DAO Treasury funding. So that's all that will happen every quarter. And of course, the more revenue the platform generates, the more tokens will be bought back and burned, and of course, the more the treasury will be funded. And of course, the treasury can be utilized for a lot of beneficial things for the SpaceID ecosystem and for DAO itself. In terms of the DAO, one more update: we did pass IDP 6. That was for the contributor program rewards. Anybody that's interested in becoming a contributor, of course, you can apply. You can find a application channel in Discord. So happy for our contributors. They will have rewards moving forward for the contributor program. And of course, our contributors have been doing a wonderful job, especially in terms of outreach. So our contributors are also helping with some outreach. They are reaching out to these BNB ecosystem, Arbitrum ecosystem projects that we haven't had a communication with yet. And I can definitely say it has been very, very helpful, and we have achieved a lot. So very glad about that. And moving forward, what's happening next? So Solo, TLDs in general, right? I think what people are interested in is what we're doing next, and what are the next TLDs? Like, what are the launches? Maybe we have announced, maybe what's in the pipeline that we can't really discuss, but what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, of course. So I don't know if everybody saw it this week, but we announced two new partners that were launching domains on our toolkit. And that includes PancakeSwap. So they're launching their own .cake domains. We discussed the utility that they can do with that. So they're going to also own this domain name themselves, and then we help on the product side to get it up and running. But for the most part, again, they own that domain, so they take care of these loyalty campaigns. They take care of the marketing around that. So again, similar to Injective, but the difference is now it's a dApp that actually does it. So when you get a dApp or a community or an NFT project launching their own domain on SpaceID, obviously it makes sense that they're the ones owning it. It's more like the ecosystem that is a separate case. So we announced this PancakeSwap domains. It kind of fits into their anniversary campaigns that they're doing. So all we did is release some kind of teaser on Twitter, but there's going to be more information being given in the following weeks and some loyalty campaigns around that. In terms of their community, it's actually pretty similar to what Injective has. So we can expect good tractions around this. It's just that the utility is a little bit different, right? Because it's for a dApp. So they're working on, okay, what kind of perks this can give to PancakeSwap users. And they're the ones brainstorming all of that. Again, we're always advising on what they should be doing to get good growth for this launch. But ultimately, that's their own domain, and we take a portion of that registration revenue. And then the second one we announced is Fever, which is another dApp, but in that case, it's more related to, I think, digital packs, but also they got some gaming initiatives around this. And again, gaming is always one of the utility that we are looking for. So their community is pretty excited about that. So those are the two that we announced. But I mean, I can mention some numbers of what we got in the pipeline. So we actually have 8 other TLDs lined up where they have committed to launch top-level domain on top of our infrastructure. So in that aspect, it's going super well. It's actually going much better than what I thought when we announced the toolkit. Like there's a lot more projects and chains that are interested in this than I thought. And I mean, in this number 8, the majority is actually other chains over like dApps. And we got in our stage like interested in the partnership where we haven't signed any contract yet. It's not like 100% committed, but they're definitely interested. We got 18 partners lined up on top of the 8 that have actually committed. So we're just getting like more and more out there. And what I like in having like even more partners launching their TLDs is the more we get these partners launching domains, the more it becomes easy to get integrations into our SDK. Because again, like one of our big selling points with SpaceID is when a wallet or a dApp integrates the SDK, they become compatible with all the domain names we've launched, which so far is again .bnb, .arb, .say, .injective. They're on Cosmos, so it's a little bit different. We got .eth also in our SDK, but again, once we get the .keg, the .fever, and all those, then any partner that integrates it, they suddenly become compatible with 10, 20, I don't know, like 50, 100 different domains over the next year. I don't know what the number is going to be, but the more we get, the more it becomes obvious for the partners to accept to do the integration. And on the other end, it's also relieve a lot of work for us to reach out to some partners to get more integrations. It's a very like symbiotic relationship between us and these partners, because first, when they launch their domain, they are suddenly compatible with over 200 different integrations, including wallets, which is very important for them. So for them, it's very advantageous. They don't have to do all this BD work to get compatible in wallets, which is very important. But on top of this, they are also incentivized in helping us get some integrations done. So they can reach out to some projects that they know well for these projects to integrate their SDK. And when they do so, then it's not only compatible with this particular TLD, but like all the others that we want. So the more we get partners using our toolkit, the more rapidly our ecosystem can grow. And again, it's a little bit like of a snowball effect, because the more that grows, then the more it's easy to get more integration going and so on. So I really like that aspect of the SDK. It's becoming just more easy every day to convince partners to do these kinds of integration. Apart from that, we got a pretty good partnership, and one of them that is coming that we just can't announce yet, but we're doing more of like a 50-50 venture with a particular ecosystem. So we get even more revenue than what we would get with the default 15% revenue share in the toolkit contract. But in exchange, we give them like much more help advising on the loyalty campaigns. And because we're doing this with the ecosystem themselves, and they're really going to push to integrate that domain name into their ecosystem and into their own wallets and dApps that they've developed. So super excited about announcing this. I think that one's going to come out probably this month. If I'm looking at the latest conversations we got, we just need to sign the final contract, and we're good to go with this. Other than that, in terms of like our strategy right now, as I said, getting as many TLDs as possible launched from other partners. We've also started working with third-party providers. So before, you can look at the ecosystem of name service providers out there, and you can see there's competition to SpaceID that are launching like their own TLDs a little bit everywhere. So we're actually getting in contact with a lot of these name service providers. So instead of them becoming competitors, we're asking them, instead of launching their domain themselves, to actually use our toolkit to do so. And I mean, it's really advantageous for them because they don't have to put as much dev work to launch this domain. Like once we release the this toolkit launch front end, it will become so easy for anyone to launch these domains. Like you enter the cost of these domains that you want. You enter the domain extension, what do you want it to look like? There's a few options you can check and uncheck. So they have to do less dev work. Yes, they have to share 15% of their revenue to us, which otherwise they would have, not have to share anything if they don't work with us. But what we've seen is they see how big we are, they see how much of a reach we have. So for them, paying 15% to us is really worth it because they know they will get amplification from our socials. And also, we're usually the ones that are able to get good conversation with the ecosystem teams. Like sometimes we're talking to ecosystem, they want Space ID to launch the domain on their eco, and they're letting us know, hey, hurry up. There's already like 3 other name service providers on our chain that are getting built. And sometimes we just can't go and release a domain name right there, right now. So we're starting to work on these 3-party deals where you've got the ecosystem team approving the whole thing and giving promotion. You've got Space ID, which provides the infrastructure for the domain and helps for the growth strategy. And then you've got the name service provider who, instead of building their whole thing from scratch, they just use us. And when we start working with these third-party providers, what's cool is they won't stick to necessarily one chain. After that, they're probably going to want to release another domain name on another chain, and they're going to use our toolkit again. So we start having a lot of different companies start to essentially like work for us, right? We don't have to reach out anymore. We don't have to develop things ourselves anymore. Instead, it's all very done in a permissionless manner. So excited about that. Other strategy, of course, is to continue trying to get integrations with centralized exchanges. So again, so far we got 8 or 9 integration with exchanges. We got a big one, which was Huobi. We're talking to 2 other what we consider like VIP centralized exchange. We've got some good discussion with them. I had also a meeting with our main investor, which will help push also to get these integrations done. And getting a good investor, really, really important because these guys, they invest in Space ID, but they also invest in like hundreds of very good projects out there. And obviously they want all their projects to succeed. So they help facilitate creating groups and pushing also for us when things are not advancing at a pace that's fast enough. And then obviously other strategies just to get as much utility as we can, right? We want integrations where domain names are obvious. Where we are in this space, especially in the bear market, the people that stays are, experienced crypto users. But most, again, of the interactions that we have is still done not on chain, right? It's on Twitter, it's on Discord, where having an on-chain username is not as you can really do it on these Web2 applications. But the day we get to that Web3 Twitter, then it becomes much more obvious. But this is more of like a long-term play, right? We won't get to using a decentralized Discord yet. I'm sure it will happen one day, but not yet. So until then, the integrations that make sense, that gives utility to domains, are really, again, wallets, gaming company as well, and then centralized exchange. So we're really trying to focus on these.
Yeah, and so if we take a look at the recent trend of the Frentech app, right? It seems like
yes,
while it may not be organically towards what we're talking about here in terms of a social app, while there is
but
a
people
monetary,
want that. Yeah,
exactly. And even when we see maybe in the future, maybe soon, maybe influencers, NFT influencers, or general communities of Web3 users, maybe regional, whatever it may be, right? When we see them launching their own TLDs as well with the toolkit in a permissionless manner, I think that's also going to be a great expansion. It's kind of a different market, right? It's not only just chains and apps. We can tap into these other communities consistently.
100%. 100%. People want these decentralized social media, basically, or social chats, or however you want to call friend.tech, but there's definitely hype around it. How they're doing it, though, is that your username is off-chain and it comes from your Twitter account. So it's a little bit different. Like you couldn't get like an integration with Space ID or any other domain name providers in that sense. But what's important to see is the hype around that and users wanting to be a part of it. So I know when the market comes back, a lot of projects similar to FriendTech are going to start popping up, especially when people come back to the market, to Twitter, and start discussing, because obviously at the bottom of bear market, it's not the same. It doesn't have as much activity as it usually has in the market.
Exactly, and if we sum it all up and we take the Space ID community, the ID token holders, we take the DAO participants, the more we expand into these different communities, of course, if they are utilizing the toolkit when launching their TLDs, as a solo just mentioned, 15% it goes to Space ID, and of course, we will have an increased revenue in general. The DAO will be funded much more. We'll see bigger amounts of the quarterly ID token buyback and burn. So of course, it makes a very great ecosystem benefit for us as well. So naturally,
and we eliminate competition as well. Like they become partners, these name service, when they build on top of us, which again is always a good thing to do when you're the only one doing a certain thing. Obviously, you can take more market share this way. So excited about this. Other strategies we're doing as well. We're going to have an update to our SDK pretty soon. This update, we need to convince all the current partners that have integrated to update their SDK. Once they do so, they'll never have to update our SDK ever again. And every time somebody uses our toolkit to launch a domain, it's going to be automatically compatible in there. Or we're probably going to put that through a DAO vote as well if we want to accept certain TLDs in the SDK. But the important thing is we won't have to go back and ask partners, hey, can you make sure to update the SDK so it can include .fever, right? They won't have to do this. It will work right off the bat. And another thing I really want to do, the more our SDK grows, the more it's going to become important, I think, to get integrations in the Ethereum ecosystems. Because I'm sure in the next cycle, there's going to be a lot more Web2 brands that jump into Web3. And those guys could very well be interested in having domain, right? A .puma, .nike, or whatever you want to call it. But usually dabble more on the Ethereum ecosystem. So it's very important that the integrations that we have is not only on BNB chain, Arbitrum, but also Ethereum. And we already got a head start, obviously, once the partners start updating the SDK, because we got a lot of partners that are multi-chain. So yes, they're building on BNB chain, but they also have a product working on Ethereum. So we'll start right off the bat of already having a developed Ethereum ecosystem. And also, it goes without saying that the integration with wallets, well, I mean, it doesn't matter the chain, right? It's going to work for that as well.
awesome. Anything else you want to touch upon in terms of strategy or TLDs right now?
I've talked to early this week to an NFT collection, probably like in the top 10, I would say. Not necessarily for them to launch a domain. We just like discussed. I wanted to have like some of their advice and what they think would, what we could do in our product to create like an NFT domain name for their users. Like, why would they want to do this? What they would need on a product perspective. And yeah, it was a very interesting discussion. They're not ready to launch a TLD under like the next 3 months, they said. But I think the conversation was very valuable. I think some of the key points we touched on is first, you buy a PFP from a project that you like, then you're going to use it as your profile on Twitter. You're going to use it on Twitter because you want to show that you own this NFT. You want to, show a brand that you like for the same reason that you would wear a T-shirt with a Nike logo because you like Nike. But if you start offering domain names to your users, and they can bring this branding on chain as well. So you start seeing in chain explorers, you start seeing it on leaderboards, and once we have more Web3 social functions, and you start seeing it out there as well. And the second thing is, often NFT projects, they want to access a bigger, they want to grow their community, and they know that it's not everyone who has the funds to pay like thousands of dollars to purchase an NFT from that collection, especially like the bigger one. So often what they'll do is they release a side collection, which has a larger supply, so the cost will be lower. So then they can grow their community. But the thing with this is it often devalues their main NFT collection, because people with extra funds, instead of buying that main NFT, they're going to buy from the side collection instead. And then you got a different sets of PFPs. Sometimes people prefer the derivative collection over the main one in terms of looks. So it kind of like creates competition against themselves. But let's say you decide to launch a domain name with the branding of your NFT collection in there. It doesn't really create competition with your main NFT, because it's not a PFP, it's a domain name on chain, so completely different, and you can issue those for like $5. So it really lets you attract larger pool of people. So yeah, this discussion was really interesting, and I'm excited to get more of their feedback.
Interesting, and maybe we'll see the NFT project new meta. Maybe in the roadmaps we'll see TLDs being included once the wave comes back. Maybe every project is going to be launching their TLDs. Something we can
I want that.
It does make sense, right? It does make sense.
Yep.
For sure. Awesome. A few other things just want to mention before we do close this one off. We've been going for 25 minutes. Time is really flying by fast. The grant program. So as you guys know, we do have the season 2, which was actually concluded at the end of last month. We will be posting a summary of that, of course, with all the integrated grant partners, and also the amounts we spent in season 2. We are going to be also announcing season 3 with the same blog post. I don't think we will be having another DAO proposal in terms of additional funding required. I think we will have sufficient funding for season 3 as well. And if you haven't noticed, our grant program, the season 3 will be listed in Gitcoin grants as well. So we will have that additional exposure to any new grant integration partners that we may come across. Besides that, the Learn Web3 Hackathon. So we have sponsored the Learn Web3 Hackathon. That's still ongoing. I believe it ends October 13th. If you're interested to check that out, go to learnweb3.io. And Solo, not sure if we have anything to share regarding general SpaceID 3.0 progress. Anything you want to touch up on here, or not at this stage?
Yeah, well, I would say SpaceID 3.0 is around the toolkit launch. So already talked about pretty much of what we have in the pipeline. So to summarize it again, in case people join later, we just announced .cake, .fever, .injective, which just launched, but we've got 8 other TLDs where they've committed to launching one. And then in our stage of projects interested in launching the TLD, we got 18. We just haven't necessarily got to have a signed contract with them. But I would say that most of them will move forward as well. So our pipeline is full and ready to burst.
Awesome. Should be an awesome Q4. We'll see more TLDs, more communities join. Expansion of the SpaceID ecosystem should be very great. I'm very excited for it. I think we can close this one off, unless you have anything else to add. I think we covered a lot of topics. Just a general update for everyone, right? We do want to keep you guys updated in what we are doing behind the scenes as well. So just giving you insight into that. We will be hosting more of these, especially as new things are being introduced. We want to make sure everybody's on the same page and know what to expect and know everything we're doing and everything we're planning. And we do want to be transparent on this part so everybody knows it. Awesome. Thanks for everybody who joined. Solo, thanks for giving us a very, very detailed insight into what we're doing. We'll catch up with everybody. I believe we can do it either. Probably going to be nearing the end of next month is when we can do another one. Giving another round of updates for you guys.
Thanks everyone.
Solo. Thanks for everybody who
Bye-bye.
joined. Bye bye.